The real estate biz is drastically changing, and modern real estate success can't be learned in some old course manual. This is everything they never told you about real estate, where industry leaders expose secrets to success, contemporary lead generation, and how to dominate social media. All moderated by your host, the real estate goat and queen of social media, Carrie Soave.
Welcome. I am your host, Carrie, and I am joined with my co-host, Melissa Vest Scott, and a very special guest, Kathleen Black.
Hi, Kathleen. I just want to introduce you to everybody because they may not know you as well as we all do. Kathleen Black is a globally recognized mindset and performance expert, best-selling author and speaker, guiding iconic brands and high net worth professionals to add billions of additional sales volume annually through her unique approach of empowered leadership and expert mindset training. Kathleen was awarded with the Iconic Leaders Creating a Better World for All. She's two-time best-selling author of Top 1% Life, Shift from Chaos to Calm in Your Business and Life, as well as Relentless to Rise, Your Path to Personal Expansion. Kathleen's life story that inspired the full-length documentary, The Relentless One, is directed by Emmy award-winning director M. Douglas Silverstein. Welcome. I'm so excited for today.
Thanks for having me, Melissa and Carrie. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So the name of our podcast is Everything They Never Told You About Real Estate. And I know your main business is coaching, right? So you deal with a lot of realtors, a lot of our struggles. And what would you say is the one thing that nobody ever told you about this industry?
Oh my goodness. The one thing that nobody ever told you about there. Yeah, I love the title, first of all, because I mean, there's so many things, right? Like you could say thousands of things that we don't know getting into real estate. And I think, right now we're coming off of such last year we came off such a hot market, particularly in GTA in Canada, but across North America. And, we saw so many people getting their real estate licenses and it's so easy and, getting a couple of deals trickling in. But I think, I deal with high performance, and I'm going to say, I think the thing that nobody tells most people about real estate is that it's a craft. Like it's something you need to learn and master. And if you truly do that, this industry is very, very good to you. I mean, I hear that a lot of people saying, we're hyper competitive and it's very cutthroat. And sure, it is hyper competitive, but the top 1% that I largely deal with, they're very collaborative. It's a very different mindset. So I think the part that we don't say is it's a business. Like we need to master our craft. There are skills we need to learn, and we need to be amazing communicators. And when we invest in those things, we can have a very rich life, business, but also life within the real estate industry.
Yeah, I know a lot of coaches, and I have to say, I aspire to your business. There's so many coaches out there that have these pre-recorded sessions. There's no way to really gauge whether these people are learning anything and having success with their systems. And that's one thing about you is everybody you coach does extremely well. You're very hands-on, and you can see the success, right? You can see it for yourself, and you've built such an amazing business. That is what I hope for as a coach one day. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. That's very kind. I mean, I have to say in honesty, we work with great people, and it's just true. I mean, I don't know if it's just luck or if it's, our values speak to people we want to work with, which often is the way, right? Our niche and our marketing speaks to people like us. And those are people who just, I think they love building. They love that part of it. And for us, we've really looked at, in coaching, what works and what doesn't. And I can say in full disclosure, I mean, the most wealthy coaching models are not necessarily the models that breed the highest levels of success. So for us, my for sale sign is the success of our clients. So we've always built in that way. And we work with really good people. So shout out to our clients because they make us look good because they look good, right?
Yeah.
You make them look good because they listen to you and they take your advice, which is really important. Implementation, I think, is one of the biggest setbacks for most people, because they'll do the seemingly anyhow, they do the coaching courses and then they don't implement what the tools that you give them to do. What inspired you to become a coach, Kathleen?
That's a good question. I mean, I used to run the first team specific coaching company in real estate in Canada. And I ran that for several years. I had a silent partner and I owned 50% of the company. So, I mean, we were in a space where, our competitors didn't even have team coaching. Like it wasn't even a thing. So at this point, we're 14 years later, it's like 24,000 hours just for me of coaching and training. And I look back and I think I always had a propensity. I was always very curious about what made people tick, what made me tick. At a very young age, I had to shift my life in some major ways, multiple times. I'm like a cat. I'm like maybe more than 7 lives, right? And I think that natural curiosity allowed me to kind of say, okay, wait a minute, there's more that I can do. I'm all about impact. And I've been able to, we're able to help thousands of businesses. And to me, that's really important because, we do real estate coaching, but I don't believe in business coaching. I don't. That might sound weird. To me, we're all holistic beings. We have energy workers on our team. We do mindset work. We do visualization. We do meditation. We work with the core of a person. And I think all of us need community to empower ourselves and to rise. And that curiosity led me to say, hey, I want to get into coaching. And the way the universe dealt it, within 18 months, I was director of coaching and then CEO. It's just a path I think I was preordained to take, to be honest.
Wow. At what point in your life did that happen?
That happened I started coaching actively between 2008 and 2009. And I was I was selling real estate still with a team and running a full coaching company. So it was busy. In my last years, I call them, what do you call it? I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. Oh, pinch years. I call them pinch years or pinch months. And I've lived them. So I get it that I've had those years where it's I'm selling 65 homes a year and I'm also coaching 30 people a week. And I mean, these are big leaders. They're top 1% nationally. That's who I started coaching with. So I didn't start with beginners. I started with, Rob Golfies and Melissa Charlton, and we're coaching Mark Ferris. And we're these are huge teams and names, right? So these are amongst the first people my team or myself were working with. So yeah, it came to a point where it wasn't sustainable, and that's okay. I had my 2 years and I said, okay, I'm going to go into coaching full time. And I stopped selling at that point.
Well, that you really defined the go big or go home coaching on that level right out of the gate, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with now, Kathleen, is the production and getting my coaching program off the ground, because I believe you need to put full-time hours into whatever business you're doing. You need to give 100%. Now I'm sitting at 200%. And then I thought, I'm going to start a podcast, because that's a brilliant idea to do when your plate's already full. What do you do for yourself at the time when you were doing multiple businesses? What helped balance you?
First, I mean, I am, again, I say this on purpose. When I keep saying I deal in high performance, there's a reason, because there's a different mindset in high performers and there's different values and a different way to live. I've never personally experienced balance. I've never had a client ever experience balance. In high performance, we have on seasons and we have off seasons, but more importantly, in high performance, we need to really know who we are. So I know who I am. I know what my values are. I've spent hundreds of thousands in personal development, and I've got 20 certifications for a reason. There's a reason we're very holistic, because I help people know, who am I? What do I value? And how can I put my time, energy, money, and focus into the things I value? It's nothing to do with what the world says balance is, and it's never going to be perfectly even. It's going to be a harmony. And there are times where that harmony is really high in business, and there's times where it's really low because we're in that recovery period. And I think in high performance, we need to realize it's never going to be 100% perfectly balanced or perfectly manageable, but it can work for you and it can be more fulfilling, in fact, when we get into that place where we're harmonious, because we give ourselves permission to live the way that feels good for us. And we're all unique. We're all different.
Yeah.
What a great approach.
For me, my favorite place is working. So it doesn't bother me. Melissa says to me, "You're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. You're on overload." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is where I thrive, like this makes me feel alive." It's just, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
And I think it's knowing ourselves, right? And I mean, burnout is a real thing. I mean, I've been through burnout. Most of my clients have been through burnout. And, once it hits you a couple of times, I always say the thing with burnout is it never hits you at the same Richter scale, right? Like if it was an earthquake, the first one is 2. It's like, hey, pay attention. And you're like, okay, I'll rest a bit more. I got over it. But the second time, it's going to be a 4 because like you got used to a 2. You just started living with it. You didn't even realize it was still there. And now I need you to listen. And unfortunately, it goes up and up and up. So, I mean, for most of us as entrepreneurs, we're always in expansion and growth. And I personally believe all of us need a lot of support. We need self-care, we need healing. And sometimes our bodies, when we're doing a lot, eventually will say, hey, it's time to slow down. Mentally, you don't think so, but physically, we're going to tell you there's something that we need to take care of so you can grow and expand more. And I know in our community, we really pay attention to that because Carrie, I mean, I love what I do. It's my purpose. I believe it's my calling. Like I put it up there as high or higher than parenting. Like it's my legacy in the world. That's really important to me. But my body sometimes is like, yeah, but you know what? You got to deal with getting in alignment why you're doing this. And I think there's phases, right? In high performance where people get to a point of a lot of healing. They're like, wait, why am I doing all this? And then they shift, right? And they harmonize differently. At least in my experience, most people do.
Did you find, Kathleen, that you always had that holistic approach with coaching, or did that come in later on after you might have experienced a little bit of burnout?
Yeah, it in some ways, people from the outside in would say I was holistic from the beginning. I mean, I've always had a consultant's approach. I've always said, we need to internally be aligned, and therefore we're better service providers, we're better educators, and that's still the foundation of my business. Like that has not changed. However, I work with energy and I work with energy mapping, and I had other people around me say, Kathleen, you don't get it. Like right now, you're an expert at such a high level on the doing. What do you do in real estate? What do you say? What's the system? How do you get these really high results? But you're adding in the being, and having both is going to make you phenomenally powerful. Like you have no idea how many people you can help. And at the time I just thought, oh, that's so weird. Like, why would they say that? They're like, you're amongst the most powerful coaches in Canada and North America. And at the time I'm humble. I'm like, okay, that's nice. I don't need that. But what they were trying to explain to me was when you can get into helping somebody at the core, knowing the doing becomes like it's important at a high level, but it's nowhere nearly as important as being able to literally align and power up a human. Like that's just totally different. So I would say it's been a progression over time that I've layered and added because my clients have needed it. And honestly, I've needed it, right? I need it to expand.
Yeah, that's a great approach. I take that approach with my clients as an agent. I'm there to educate and guide. And I think that's the best that we can do for them. Like, that's what we want, because ultimately we're attending to what their needs are, and it's up to us to identify them, which I love the fact that you do DISC. That's amazing. When did you introduce that into your whole profile, and what has it done for your business?
Well, DISC, we've always used it. I mean, I used it as an agent. DISC is really phenomenal because I used to, when I was younger, thought a lot of the rest of the world was a little bit off, right? I was like, these people, like, not logical, what's going on? And then I learned about my DISC and I'm like, oh, wow, they're not off, but I'm also not off either. I just have a little bit more of a unique DISC profile. And then when I learned Myers-Briggs, and for anyone listening, these are all ways to learn about ourselves as leaders. Colby, they're all very powerful. Emotional intelligence, we need all of them. That's the truth. We need to know ourselves, our strengths and our weaknesses. And then when I learned my Myers-Briggs and found out I'm 0.08% of the female population, I'm an INTJ, a mastermind. I was like, oh, it makes sense. It allowed me to really communicate better with others, allowed me to take responsibility for that and say, you're seeing the world from here. Now open up and see the world from all these other places. And that's a really fascinating thing to do. So we use it in the traditional hiring and recruitment, but we use it to empower leaders to communicate differently, to know how to communicate with people around them and with clients, particularly if you're a team. Sometimes you have a client with the wrong agent, personality rise, and you'll keep having conflicts and complaints and difficulties. And sometimes it's just, oh, wait a minute, this person needs this, right? This person needs nurturing or support and they're fearful. And I'm giving them an agent who's like, but I'm getting you the best results. And they're a little too cutthroat. They're not speaking the same language. And you make an adjustment and all of a sudden it's smooth. So, I mean, DISC is so powerful to understand for all of us. We all speak different versions of English.
Yes.
Do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to be therapists.
Yeah. I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but I believe that there are way too many team leaders out there that haven't systemized their business properly, and they're not benefiting from what a team is supposed to do for them. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Hands down. The teams are largely, most teams are, very, all businesses have a portion of being dysfunctional. My business, every business, your business, we all do. That's just reality. But there are necessary stages in expansion. And unfortunately in real estate, it seems like we have a lot of team specialists, but we actually don't. We have a lot of kind of big brands who did coaching or did mindset and kind of said, oh, a team is like brokerage. We can help you. Teams are not brokerages. That's not where they're at today. And there's vital steps to build their foundation and their systems and their economics, the way they approach money. Yeah. And unfortunately, we have a lot of teams who just think, oh, a team's like a brokerage. You kind of just work with me, you take a split. And they haven't built that middle stage. It's solopreneur, expansion, then teampreneur. And when you skip that expansion phase, honestly, it's chaotic. It costs you a ton of time and money. They're not usually profitable. And they're what I call ego businesses. But people don't intentionally build an ego business. They kind of just end up there and they're like, I don't get it. I should be making money. Or they're so busy selling, they don't even realize that, oh, I don't get it. Why aren't my agents selling? Or why are people leaving? Or, why am I not profitable? Or the worst, like I built a successful business and I can't stop selling. And I can't afford to take a salary because I've floated it this entire time, which happens quite often, right? So there's a lot of really common advice that backfires in team building. Over 80% of teams and partnerships fail. This is a real statistic, but we don't see it all the time, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah, I had a team. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I turned into the team leader because you know what? When I built my team, there weren't a lot of teams in Hamilton. There were almost none. So I went to my broker and I said, hey, I want to build a team. I think I want to do this for the obvious reasons. And he said, well, I don't really know anything about that. And he couldn't support me. So I said, I'll just make it up as I go. And even back then, like this is like 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of coaching programs out there. I think you were the only one when I did a Google search. And I knew for me, I didn't want to be coached by some 70-year-old old man, who knows nothing about me as a woman and what my aspirations are. So I just kind of tried to do it on my own. And I ended up the team leader that floated the business, exactly what you're talking about, because it's what I had to do, and it obviously didn't work out for me, but I'm a better solo agent, right? I'm a way better solo agent. Yeah. What is the hang up though? What's the hang up? Because, in today's world, there are coaches for absolutely everything, every industry, and it is so well embraced, except for real estate. I feel like realtors have this hang up. It's not that we don't have the money. We make good commission checks. We have the money to invest into our business. Why are more agents not investing in coaching? What do you think the reason is?
Well, one, I mean, when we have that solopreneur, top producer mentality, and we're not in a high performance mindset, because sometimes I use the word ego, but ego is just, you're in your small mind, right? All of us have that part of our mind where we're in fear and we look at everything as a cost. High performance people look at things as investments or costs, and they're very clear about it. If I'm investing in this, what am I looking to get back as a return? Average mindset or the ego mindset says, well, when I'm making enough money, I'll invest in that. High performance, like, because I invest in that and I get the tools and equipment and guides I need, I get where I want to go. And the average mindset, again, is saying, oh, this is a cost. Can I afford to, put this amount of money in? The high performers, like, I need to invest in things that are going to allow me to grow. So we see often in the average mindset, this term of cost constantly, but they're not understanding that investment is what powers and fuels business growth. And as women, we're actually much more shy to invest in our business. We hold back. It's statistically a fact. We hold back in hiring the support we need. We have a much business-wise, not just in real estate, but I mean, when you look at the percentages of female business owners who are 7-figure plus, we're 2% or less, right, across North America. So, I mean, I think a lot we hear, should we still be talking about women in leadership? Like, isn't it an even playing field? But, you see the top leaders come out in our industries, you see the awards, you see the Swanee pools or, the in-man leaders, and we're looking at, top 10, we have 3 women. Right? You're looking at that full report. What percentage are women out of the 100, 200 names? And there's not enough. This is just a fact. So, I think because some people listening are women, and you've brought up, why do we hold back? We know all the stats, right? We know women need to be asked 7 times for the same opportunity as a man needs to be asked once. We know that women want to have full preparation, whereas men are like, well, I'm 60% there, right? So I'll be okay. I'll learn on the way. As women, we're literally hiring at half the rate, hiring support, but we're doing on average 4 times more work outside of our professional lives than our male counterparts. So think about that. And it's not just child rearing and cooking. It's also looking after an ill family member, right? There's an ill child. There's something going on in our lives. And we're doing a lot of organizational caretaking management work. And I think in a conference, I say to people who are managers, and they put up their hand, that's hard work, right? Like, how many of you guys are full-time managers? So like a lot of women statistically are full-time managers outside of their professional careers. Yeah. Then they come into the professional career and they're saying, I'm scared. I don't want to spend money. And so they're hiring help at half the rate, doing 4 times more outside of the professional realm. So the odds are stacked against them. So it's so important to talk about this. What is the investment mindset? When do we lead in? How can we do it safely? Because we need to do it, right? Like myself, I had a really low cost of living. I was a single mother and I knew, I refused to be a statistic. So like, Kathleen, what are you going to do? You're going to have a really low core overhead so that my immediate personal life felt so safe with my kids. I didn't need to worry that I could take massive risks and investments in my business life because that's what I needed to do. So it's going to look different for everyone listening to this, but it's really important. Say, where am I going? How am I going to get there? Don't look at today. Look into the future and give yourself a path there. If you keep looking at today, you're going to keep being stuck at today. You gotta lift up the eyesight to new horizon.
I completely agree with you. I also feel as women, if we've experienced some sort of setback in our past, financially or otherwise, it has a propensity to make us even more conservative with our approach to things. I experienced a very similar situation to you as well in that. Single mom, 3 kids, started a business. This is pre-real estate. And I was always very conservative with my approach. And it's a statistically proven fact that women are more conservative with investment than men.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just, it is what it is. So how do you change?
It's powerful. It's powerful to know it.
How do you change that mindset? How do you encourage a woman to change that mindset?
Get her around other high performance people, get into a community. We like to think we're lone wolves, right? Like we're in North America, the American dream, we're lone wolves and our willpower. Systems beat willpower every single day. Community will elevate people much higher than most of us will ever elevate with willpower on our own, because the mindset with which we have to look at even basic tools in real estate, listing presentation, how I talk about commission, buyer presentation. These aren't just scripts, whatever. These aren't just tools that you look at and you see clearly. Like Melissa, you'll look at one of those tools and interpret it a certain way. Carrie, you'll look at it a certain way. I'll look at it a certain way. In order to elevate our business, we need the mindset of people who are using these tools at a much higher level. We need community. So often we think, I just need to get the tool. No, you need the perception of how to apply and use that tool and how to communicate it in what order. And that's something that, you know, we really work on in high performance. I always say mastery is the house built that nuance built, right? Once you know the core, you have to be willing to say, I don't just know it, I do it. And I'm constantly trying to get it to exemplary. So I'm paying attention to all those little details that the majority of us in real estate, they're not willing, they could take the time. The invitation's there, but we often don't.
Yeah. And the language really starts up here because what our thoughts are come out in our words, which define everything we do going forward. So and it's really interesting if you actually listen to your language, what we think we're saying sometimes isn't what we're really saying. And we can be a lot more negative than what we actually thought we were. So it's hard to change that, but you have to be cognizant of it. So what is it? 28 days to change a habit.
It's funny you brought this up because I was just in Costa Rica with my sister and her husband and their family and my kids. And we were talking about new habits, and my brother-in-law said, Kathleen, like what is the magic number? And just interesting, weird fact. But that number, 21 or 28 days, actually came from research based on plastic surgery, like 50 years ago in recovery times. So they've done, right? Crazy, right? So they've done all this. Obviously. I know. When I first learned that, I was like, what? Like these don't even apply. So for most, I know. So for most people, like if you're a habitual person, which is just a behavior, this isn't an identity. I can become better at new habits. I can choose to lean into that. If that's a new journey for you, on average, 6 months. You need 6 months to really ingrain, and don't be scared by that. That's like, hey, I've got room. It's okay if I fall. I just got to get back on track. But if you're more already a very like habit-based person, you can set a new powerful habit with the right routines in 3 months. So it's still a pretty good curve, I think.
So if you're coaching someone, how do you know where to start with them?
Yeah, we approach custom. You know, there's a lot of programs like Carrie was saying, you watch the videos, you have no idea. Every single team I work with, like I just did one this morning, I go on their first call, I do a strategy call. So it's a custom flow of what are their priorities and what are we going to do first. But the easy answer for people listening at home, where do you start? 100%. I promise you the most powerful people expanding their businesses, they move out of ego the quickest. So they call themselves on their fear mentality, and B, they are visionaries. And visionaries are not born that way. They're not, I don't mean an archetype like a driver and you're like, I'm not a driver, but that's okay. Everybody can be a visionary. And in order to expand or shift your life, in fact, you need to be one. You need to. It is a necessity. So the number one place we start is something called a letter from the future, which I've done for like 14 years now. And that's, it's an energetic experience. It's a visualization. It's 10x more powerful than a vision board. So when I hear people say, I do a vision board, that's awesome. Do the vision board after the letter. Let it support you, because you need to align your unconscious and your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is like, I want this. Your unconscious mind is like, this is how we're going to get there. If they're not aligned, you get stuck, you burn out, you feel frustrated, and most people just tap out. So the letter is allowing you, really, it's the most powerful way I know to combine your conscious and unconscious. And it's pen to paper. So for us left brainers, which I used to be more so, I've healed a lot out of full left brain, but you have to let yourself, trust yourself to go into flow. Trust yourself that good things are going to come up that you're meant to go towards. And 3 years in of doing those letters, people really realize how much impact they have over their lives. It's pretty fascinating.
I've not heard of that. That's an amazing approach. It's really unique.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely
Impressive.
do. So that's the one thing that you would advise any business owner, let alone realtor, that's looking to expand, to start there.
You have to know where you're going. You have to know your destination. And this is why a lot of top producers get stuck and team leaders get stuck, and they're like, oh, but I'm producing, we're doing well. But where is it you're trying to go? right? There's that evolution again, coming out of top producer mindset into expansion. I know myself now. I trust myself. I'm willing to get help now. I don't need to know it all. I'm willing to build systems into now. I want to be a collective, which means you're a Sherpa. And when you're a Sherpa, whether it's with a buyer, a seller, a team member, an administrator, you're trying to give them the path to walk towards success. You can't walk it for them. You can't. And if you don't know the destination, you won't go through those shifts successfully. You get stuck. Right. So we have to know where we're going first.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
Go ahead, Carrie. Oh, I was just going to follow up with that because it's basically, what is the expression? A goal without a plan is just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you don't set it out, and my partner and I just talked about this when we were away on holidays, because we had done this sort of what you described, but not as a letter. We had each taken a page in a book, each of us writing down what our goals were for financial, career, personal, and just stuff. And then we folded it in half and then handed the book to the other person so that when we opened it up, we could both see it. So we've done this twice now. And we talked about it on holidays. And I said to him, we need to set dates in place. So we need to do this one more time, but set dates in place because that will start the plan.
Absolutely.
Of how to get there. That's the path. So
vision.
Exactly. We need a start. Other than that, we're just dreaming and nothing's ever going to happen. And that's fruitless. It's not, but it's, you know what I mean?
No, it is like we have a full flow, right? Like this idea of manifesting without taking action. Action is the currency of the energetic world, right? So you're saying, hey, I have this vision, but your action is paying your currency. It may not be financial at the time, it may be, but for us, there's a path. There's many steps that take us all the way from that vision into like today. What do I do today? And they all connect back and forth, which is really important. And I think, it's like this year with our community, I did a meditation, like visualization for them to prepare for the letters. And, we went and kind of found our book of life and opened it and went to the chapter that was 2023. And I had them envision. And then as soon as they read it, and then when they woke up or opened their eyes, they were writing out that letter. And I think, sometimes we forget how important some of the mental and, energetic edges are to us in business. We think it's all just systems. It's not. It gives us a lot of peace of mind to be like, you know what, this next year, it's already out there somewhere. It's fully occurred, right? There's metaphysics that this has already occurred. I'm on the right path. And if I see that things aren't working, or your plan, Melissa, once you write it out, you're like, oh, we're not really there. Oh, I know I'm not there because I wrote a plan. So now I can tweak it. Now I can get resources. Whereas if I didn't do that, I walk into the year, I'm like, I'm going to double my business, and I'm doing the same thing as last year, and I'm frustrated at the end. So I think sometimes there's a lot of power in just going, you're in the right place, be joyous, right? Don't make it heavier on yourself. Sometimes it's like we weigh ourselves down with 10 backpacks, proverbially trying to go up this mountain when you only needed a little day pack and you still would have gotten there, right? And those little mindset changes are really important, I think.
Wow, you just described every woman going on a trip.
All right.
Yeah, I
think of that. That's true.
I totally agree, though. I found yoga and meditation about 6 years ago. And when I look back, what that mindset shift has done for my business life is it's just opened up so many doors. Prior to that, it was all about sell a house, sell a house, sell a house. And now my goals look like do a podcast, talk to this person, go to this event, start your coach. You know what I mean? It opens up a whole new world. And it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. Now, there are a lot of times that I'll fall off that. I'll fall off that routine and I'll get so wrapped up in what I'm trying to accomplish in the moment of my plan that I'll forget about everything else. Like, ask Melissa, some days it's like 8:00 at night and I'm like, I haven't had a shower today. I haven't left my home office. I don't know what time is it? Like, So how can I, or other women out there, other people out there, avoid dropping off like that and getting consumed?
That's a great question.
Well, I think there's little answers to that and there's big answers, right? Like one I really love is just take that magic 60 seconds and hand on the heart. For most of us, it grounds us. And particularly if you're in your home and your shoes are off and you can have your bare feet literally on the ground and put your hand on the heart and close your eyes, deep breaths. There's other breathing techniques I work with too, but just doing that, for most people, it's an anchor. So if you train yourself that when I do this, I reconnect to my heart space, I reconnect to my purpose and my power, and it brings you back and allows you to get more flow between your left and right brain hemisphere. Because usually when we get into that, for me, Carrie, and most of my clients, it's like we're in that left brain of just do it, get it done, get it done, get it done. And we're all guilty of it, right? So if we can just, oh, wait a minute, I'm a human, right? I need to be connecting with other people. How I feel and how other people feel is actually communicating for me as well, even in what I'm creating, right? Or the people I'm talking to. So if I can be in that great state of mind, I'm going to communicate differently and make people feel differently, even through email, everything, the phone, people feel it, right? You're creating from your state, literally. So if you want a different value exchange, you want to make more money, we have to alter that state of with which we're presenting and creating and showing up as ourselves. I think that that's one way. The other is we all act based on what we believe. And I mean, I've had years in my life where, oh my gosh, like I'm the most grueling drill sergeant, and sometimes to myself. And sometimes that's been really good. Like sometimes in the morning, it's like, who are you? You're not going to get up. You're not going to go to the gym. Like this is who you want to be. I run up a hill as part of, I'm not jogging right now, but I do. And I run up a hill and I make myself run up the whole way. If I stop midway, I have to go all the way back down. And I've done it only twice, thank God, gosh. But I went down because I know I can run up that hill. And it's a mental edge thing of, I know I've done it when I'm sick. I've done it when my sinuses are killing me. I've done it. So it's reminding me, hey, every single choice I make is either towards where I want to be or towards where I am or worse. And that hill for me is a metaphor. Where do you want to go right now? Do you want to slide down? Do you want to stay? Or do you want to be accelerating forward? And our beliefs are so important. So if I'm telling myself that working myself into the ground is the only way to be successful, I'll allow it to happen. But if I believe to my core that when my energy is high, I perform more, I do better, I will rarely, sometimes, but rarely sacrifice, the things that get your state at a higher frequency, like the yoga, run, gym, walk. If you have nature, go for a walk, whatever it is for you. So there's a lot of shifts that can happen because it's deeply embedded in some of us.
Yeah.
The work hard is deeply embedded for generations and generations, right?
Yep. I was totally raised that way. Militant lifestyle. You're on a schedule. You have to work at least a minimum of 60 hours a week if you want to be successful. So the mind shift for me, I still fight with that. And I push myself all the time. Okay. And it's funny you bring up if you only go halfway up the hill, you have to do it all over again. I just got my open water PADI, and if I didn't complete one of the exercises, we had to do it all over again, and for safety. So, and I had to do it. And I pushed myself because that was me outside of my comfort zone. So I think that that's really important, because we all get in that comfort zone. We naturally, just because of our generational mindset, we naturally fall into those old patterns because they are ingrained in us.
The priorities.
Generationally just completely. And not even on a subconscious level. We respond on a subconscious level. I think statistically, we function throughout our day 95% subconsciously. Yeah. So imagine if we could shift that more, where we had that 5% and that became 15% or 20%.
Yeah.
And we weren't relying on these ingrained subconscious reactions really to our everyday life.
Yeah.
So
and
I love it.
Yeah. And that's the source. I mean, I think there's a lot in, coaching world and wellness world, like set a new habit or, just wake up earlier. But sometimes these are true. I mean, I've had people read Morning Miracle by Hal Elrod, I think, and like have miraculous shifts in their lives, just straight up. It's true. But often it's like we're looking at symptoms. And symptoms, you can try to shift them, but they're coming from a source. And most of us need guidance and need support in order to get to the source and take some of that unconscious and make it conscious in a safe place so we can expand as leaders. And I think the other thing is there's seasons to our lives. You know, there's seasons in my life where other people on the outside would be like, Kathleen, you're insane. Like the level of hustle that like, it's not healthy, right? Like, cause I had those days, like you're saying, Carrie, where I'm like lots of dry shampoo and like not even, oh, maybe I don't have time to shower like, during COVID. Cause I was booked all day on Zoom. Like I was like a virtual person. I do 8 talks some days. Like, and I look back and I'm like,
crazy.
Like, yeah, but now I have sensitivity to the light and my computer because I was on the computer. So there's always a cost to everything. But I think as, you know, people trying to build our businesses, the seasons are really important because I had those hustle seasons and now some of us have that guilt, right? Or it's like, we want to give our team members everything we have now because I want to make it easier on them. And I think it's really important to remember, you know, you can create entitlement. It's like, we're there to create the path. We can help people do things quicker, but they still got to walk it. You can't take that away. And we have to remember, because I walked it, I'm in a different season. I have different needs. So sometimes there's advice, but it's based on a certain season of growing our career or growing our lives. And it's not applicable, you know, the full time. And I think that's okay. And that's fair, right?
Yeah.
It changes.
I have a question for you. It's a little, you might be like, what the fuck, Carrie? But have you ever done any type of spiritual awakening with ayahuasca or anything like that? I just thought, like, for some reason, I just needed to ask you that.
Well, we're in the what is it called? We're in the hallucinogenic revolution, right? Like we know psychedelic revolution, like we are, this is a fact. And the people who are listening to it and going like, oh my gosh, they're all doing drugs. It's like the idea of performance is also the idea of how do we heal and how do we enhance our brains and how do we take off. And literally when people are like, you can change generational trauma.
Yes,
you can, but you have to be brave enough to look at it and say, okay, yeah, literally it stops with me. And you think your family and friends are going to be great supporters. And this is not often the case, right? There are things people aren't willing to face. So I definitely have great admiration and respect for medicine women, medicine men, healers who have a lineage and understand how to work with plant medicines. And I think it's important that in these cultures, right, in Peru and in Mexico and these healers, it is a lineage. It's a generation of healing. And it's plant medicine. So some people listening to this might be, oh, you're getting high. Like personally, I have not yet done ayahuasca. I believe I will at some point, but I know enough of it and been around enough of it to be like, you're not just get it. You wouldn't do that. Just have fun and get high. But I also know, you know, just because we're bringing it up, like it's very important, I think, to be with people who create an energetic space for you, a container for you. And, you know, for me, any work I have done with plant medicine, I'm blessed to have been connected with medicine women, which for me is very important, who were, you know, trained under elders and lineage and respect it. And there's a certain process there. And therefore you feel safe. It's not a commercialized experience for them. And I think you need to be very careful because there's a lot of trauma that's come from people trying to do ayahuasca or other things because they're at the hands of somebody who doesn't understand, you know, the things that it brings up and doesn't know how to deal with it. And that's very unfortunate because it'll pull people back, right? I mean, there's so much going on in therapy, even in Canada, like working with, is it MDMA in therapy sessions and the ability to take away post-traumatic stress. I mean, it's a very, very exciting time. And I have huge reverence. Like my biggest shifts in business have been working with energy healers, energy workers. And that's why I, you know, work with it as much as possible.
Yeah. I'm right into that. I've done these sweat lodges. I have been microdosing on and off on, mushrooms for a long time. It's like very microdosing though. And it's helped me significantly. So that's why I was asking. I know you're really into this, you know, spiritual realm. And I thought, hey, I wonder if she's tried it because I have not tried ayahuasca yet. I'm not sure if I will, but definitely it has to be in a very supportive and safe space. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was blessed enough to go. I don't know if you know what Esalen is. It's a center in Big Sur in California, and they were amongst like the brain expansion, metaphysics, psychedelics. They're at the forefront with microdosing and advancing, and they've had these the most cutting edge minds like in the 70s and all the way forward. So I was able to work with two medicine women combining the beliefs of the East and the West. So it's called the Eagle and the Candor, and I can send information because actually one of the medicine women, she's from Montreal originally, but she's in San Francisco, and I'm looking to bring her, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to our conference this year. And I'm just going to make sure I say her name properly in case anyone's listening to this, but they do all different things. Like they work with liquid tobacco and all sorts of different things. And again, it's very, very powerful. And I've had phenomenal experiences of shifts in energetic spaces. Just now in Costa Rica, I worked with a medicine woman and did some shamanic healing and just needed very, very powerful. Her name's Erica Gagnon. So I'll give her a shout out after with this, because she's a very special, non-binary, just special energy and influence we need right now, I believe.
Yeah. That's
Have you ever had pushback from high performers regarding your holistic approach?
No, I think we need to meet people where they are. When I look back at Kathleen at 20 or even 22 or 25, I wasn't open to everything, right? So I have some people that, first of all, I do strategic work now. I have a team of experts in all the different areas of business development. So my people work with us, they'll work with different members of our team, not just one person. Yeah. But I mean, I've learned very clearly to speak the language that's comfortable. And I think we do that with buyers and sellers too. Some of them are fear-based, some are not. So if somebody's saying to me, Kathleen, in direct or indirect ways, I want to speak the language of business, we speak the language of business. We can shift mindset in business and it'll impact the other areas of your life. If they're saying, I want to speak the world of energetics and I'm open and I'm okay, then we can speak that language. But I think I speak based on where I'm at in the journey. And sometimes people feel more comfortable working with other people because they don't relate yet, or maybe they're not meant to, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely never, I want people to feel comfortable in my presence, and I never want to put something on anybody.
That's great. All available in the strategy call too, right? You can get a sense for that during your strategy call, where they're at, how their personality is working. I have one question, moving on from that topic. What is the biggest roadblock that you're seeing for the agents that you're coaching right now in this market? What do you think is the main obstacle and the main struggle that they're having?
The biggest struggle I see in those who are successful right now in this market and those who are really struggling is the ability to shift from a product driven professional into a service educational minded professional. And I think a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I'm not a pushy salesperson, but if your systems are, somebody calls to see a house, you show them the house, you hope they buy it, you get an offer, somebody calls and says, come list my house, you think you're going to list it, it's going to sell tomorrow or next week. That's a product driven market. That's like selling a car or selling a TV. Those of us who are excelling right now are using systems we use personally in any market, but they're using a documented journey approach. They've documented step 1, step 2, step 3. How do I provide value at step 1? How do I know who's ready to move to step 2? How do I communicate with the people who aren't ready yet, right? Who do I spend my time and energy with? And people who are documenting this, we have such a higher ability to do well in shifting markets because they might have more people get to step 4, whereas in the other market, we got to step 10 in 2 weeks. But if you're tracking it, you're like, oh, I see. They have the funnel coming in. They're nurturing them. They're doing appointments. People are hiring them, or we have a plan for that listing. We can see all that data. But when you're product driven, you don't have any of that because it's instant gratification and you don't know how to switch your language. And it's not instant to learn what to say and how to do things at a high level. And I think we need to be humble, all of us right now, and go back to some systems and tools. And I just recommend you emulate what's working at the top. Model the best, forget the rest, literally. Yeah. There's a lot of advice out there. If it's not working at the highest level, I'm polite, but I don't take it in. It doesn't go into my brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's so important to get out of your own, ego driven mind and just really humble yourself and say, okay, if I want to do better, I need to do different too, as well. Right. Nothing changes unless what you're doing changes. I believe that.
Exactly. Yeah, there was an article. I was thankful. An article came out today in REM, and they had done kind of a feature, which was really nice, and I'm grateful for it. But at the end, I think it's poignant. At the end, she said, this is quoting me, but this is the year of the Sherpa. And I truly, truly believe it is. I think for high performers, it's always the year of the Sherpa, but for everybody, this is that year. Like if you're not willing to take people through from the beginning all the way to the end and know that less people are going to reach the end. You're Sherpaing 3 times the people this year to reach your goals. And if you're not willing to lean into that, you're going to struggle. If you're willing to say, okay, I know the formula, let's go, like let's help more people, but not waste time on the people I shouldn't, you're going to do well. But that's a big shift for some of us.
Yeah, it's got to be ego driven too, right? I think it has to be ego driven because there are so many great coaches that have proven that their systems and their blueprints work. Why the hell is everybody, and I've been guilty of this too, why is everybody trying to reinvent the wheel? Take something that is proven to work, customize it for your own business, but get the guidance that you need. You can get there in less time. That's my mindset around that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those, again, symptoms versus sources, right? The symptom is it's different in my market, or I need to do it differently. The source is I'm afraid, right? What I'm doing now is working and I'm scared of changing something and not getting the results or not being good at it or not being able to implement it. So, it takes a lot of expansion to put yourself out there all the time. And I think that that's a piece of it, but we all get stuck, and usually it's some belief behind it. Like I'll work with people, they're paying me a lot of money, right? Like to help, don't get me scared, but you need to pay something in order to expand, and they'll be fighting me on why it won't work in their business. And I'll just be like, I'm not going to fight with you for your own failure. Like I'm not going to do that. So we need to figure out why you're fighting me on something that's worked thousands and thousands of times in order to keep something that's not working at the level you want it. But it happens all the time. And people don't see it, right? It's non-conscious. Like you said, it's so I think it's holding space, being kind to ourselves, be patient with ourselves, So everything's a process.
Do you think that that's just a comfort zone and people are comfortable in their little bubble? So I'm guilty of it. I'll say no first until I can absorb the information, and then I'm willing to adapt to change. So my partner's pointed it out to me many times of when something is new and I feel vulnerable to it, I'll say no, and then I'll dive into it. Do you think that could be a component to that?
I think mentally we always think, well, I'm a learner, I'm ready to learn, but we know it moves from learning to open-mindedness to potential growth, then to learning. There's like 3 steps before people are like, okay, I'm actually going to give, because we don't have much time and attention and focus, or we tell ourselves we don't. Some of us have very precious, more money, less time. But I think, we assume that we're all in a learning state, and that's not actually true. So that's why I said, start with that destination. Where do I want to get? Now I can prioritize where I need to learn and how to kind of flow into it. But we're always moving out of that comfort zone. And for most of us, unfortunately, 90 to 98% of our population is programmed by fear. So when it gets too tense, when things get too hard, when it's too scary, that's the only time we'll take action. But the problem is when you have like a pendulum and you go from comfort into panic, and you make all these changes, the minute you get security again, you go back to being exactly who you were. But if you venture out to have a destination to be growth minded, you go into that openness, growth, learning, transformation. You literally have changed the way you believe about something and how you approach it. You're never going to go back to being somebody who doesn't know what you now know. And this is why people all the time are like, but I'm in this panic or I'm in a storm. It's like, don't waste it. Don't waste that energy ever, because that tension is that call to action. It's your best chance. If you don't take action when things are hard and the world is tense and you need to, when are you going to? Most people don't. They get stuck.
I
Right?
completely agree with that.
I feel like
Completely.
personally for myself, listening to this conversation and being a part of this conversation, I can honestly critique myself and be like, it's fear, which is why you're not taking certain. My fear is all about money. So it's all about monetary steps, right? Anything that'll cost money. But I could see it's all just fear. It has nothing to do with, whether I trust that process or not. It's all the fear around money and the limiting beliefs around money and whatever's been programmed into my brain prior. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kathleen?
It's a big thing.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a great tip, and I use this a lot over the years. Write a list of what you need in place to say yes, because then it's objective. And when you hit that, you'd be like, oh, remember when I said if these things were in place, I'd say yes and I did it? Your brain's still going to say it's not enough. It's
that is
it.
Truly the best advice.
Give yourself permission. Go time, right?
Yeah,
that
is
best
cool.
advice.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for coming on today. This was a refreshing episode. I love talking about wellness. I love talking with people with the same mindset as myself. And I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you on anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie, Melissa, everybody listening to us. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm eternally grateful for this. I'm a big believer in coaching, and yes, thank you. Fabulous.
Thanks for listening to Everything They Never Told You About Real Estate. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. To connect with Carrie or for more information about her coaching program, check out carriesoave.ca or at Carrie Soave and Associates on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.